a podcast. It's called Best of Friends. Here we go now, yeah!
Hey, welcome to maybe the last episode of the Best of Friends Popcast. But who knows? There could be more. It could happen. It's possible. Anyway, this is Mike from Sparkle Jets. I'm here with my bandmates Susan West.
Hello.
And Jamie Knight.
Hello.
And we're just, it's funny, our what was supposed to be our last episode just dropped today. But we've been in the background trying to make, to get one more guest on here for sure. And it's kind of funny. I was just like, I better make that happen before it's too late. And coincidentally, it just so happens to be getting recorded today. So that means I have to edit this show quickly and get it online, in the next 7 days, just so we can keep our continuity together. But anyway, we have a really special guest. We've really been trying hard to get him on here because we think it's really important. He's kind of a critical cog in this wheel of this story for a lot of reasons. Anyway, let's introduce from the band that we covered, Cockeyed Ghost, the one and only Adam Marsland.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Live from wherever you are in the Philippines. Where are you, by the way?
I'm in Mandaluyong City, which is basically Metro Manila.
How long have you been there, right?
I've been here since April. I'm doing some work here as a consultant for an American company. Before that, I had gone back to performing in Cambodia, and I did about 9 months. Actually, I hadn't been performing for quite a long time. And then, none of us had because of COVID, right? But I went back to performing in hotels in Cambodia for about 9 months, which was really, really enjoyable. And
wow.
But then I got tired of lugging my gear around, and I got offered this pretty nice opportunity here in the Philippines. And so I came back here and been here ever since, and probably will be here for the rest of the year.
Just like always, you're chasing gigs, which is what you've been doing as long as I've known you in one frame or other.
Mm-hmm.
Since you've been in Asia, you've lived in, I don't know how many countries.
I've lived in 3, Cambodia, Indonesia, and the Philippines.
And visited all the ones in between, I'm sure.
A lot of them, yeah.
And ironically spent a lot of time back here because you got stuck here during COVID.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And back when we couldn't talk to anyone or see anybody, we saw more of you coming down here and hanging out in Long Beach than we saw about anybody during that time, which was cool.
That was one of the hardest things about it, is that I left Los Angeles because my life as a middle-aged single man was getting kind of unfulfilling. And I don't mean that because of lack of dates or anything like that. It's more of an overall social thing. And I'd said quite a number of times that I never would have left LA if I could have seen all my friends more than like once a year. And because I have an amazing friend network back there. But, people get older, they got their own families. People just don't mix up as much. But my life is still very much not a middle-aged life. I'm not very settled. And so, I'm kind of on a different life path. And one of the things that was difficult about that situation was I loved the music part of my life in LA, the playing with the Chaos Band and doing the recording. That all was great. So I wound up back in LA. I had just gone there to finish moving out of my house. I wasn't planning to stay there for more than 8 weeks, I think. And then I'm stuck there. All my stuff's back in Manila. I don't even have a spare T-shirt to make a mask with. And I'm stuck home alone, isolated, which is exactly the reason I left LA. But I couldn't do any of the stuff I liked, which was to see my friends and to play music and to record. And it was if I hadn't been able to buy a used car and go hiking that whole time, I would have lost my mind, I think. So it was really great seeing you guys the couple times we got together.
And you got to make another TV show. You've been working on little web series.
Yeah.
Over there in Asia, and then all of a sudden you were doing it out here in LA and out in the desert. And well, anyone that knows you has probably been following the various threads of all the things that you've done, which is extensive. So just a toe dip in the pool will keep you busy for years in the pool of Adam's work. But
yeah, unfortunately,
well, no, it's good. It's and it's you're just driven to do it, and it's like you're one of us. You can't help it.
Look, creating is how I connect with other people. I think, like a lot of creative people, I'm a little bit on the spectrum. And if I was writing my own life story in about what the pop scene did for me and what being a musician did for me, it was to sort of force me to acclimate to normal socializing, which was something that I'd been trying to do since I was younger. But I remember the early Cockeyed Ghost days, and I attracted a lot of criticism for my sort of brash personal ways, and that was true. I mean, those same ways were part of why the pop scene coalesced, because you needed someone to go out there shamelessly promote it and get people down to Tony's Club and get people to the Roxy and get people to the House of Blues and things, and not be afraid of how uncool they looked. And I was that guy. But it's also true that I pissed a lot of people off and made a lot of mistakes. But I can't think of a faster and more efficient way to learn how to be a better human than just making social faux pas after social faux pas after social faux pas, and have more, be in a community of loving people like that was, and have people gently take you aside and go, that wasn't cool. And then I would go, oh, okay, I understand. It was, for my personal journey with it, that's kind of what it was, and now that I'm older, I'm very comfortable with the sort of unruly parts of my personality. And I understand how there's like an upside and a downside to that, as there is for all of us. And the easiest way for me to connect, explaining my own odd way of looking at the world, was to write about it. And most of the stuff I did with Cockeyed Ghost and later in my solo work was sort of taking that empathetic outsider's perspective on what I saw everyone else doing, and sometimes about where that placed me in the social world.
Yeah, I think it's been fun watching that happen, and with all the different various things that you've made. We were talking about this before we started the show, but I remember I'd found evidence recently in the last few weeks that we really did start making this Best of Friends album back in 2001, because I found sessions that I'd begun with all these same songs where I dropped the files in, and I think Ludlow was right there among those, because I think I'd already done some drums for it, and I'd done that for a few songs. We were just starting to build things. I haven't even told Jamie and Susan this. I just remember I told you I'd got some of the old Logic sessions back, and sure enough, I was seeing all the titles from Best of Friends popping in there. I'm like, what? And sure enough, I'd started them a number of times. So it was definitely something we were going to do. And I remember when we were looking to do this project again, I'd gone back just to make sure that our list was kind of what we wanted, and looked at some of every band's like other material around there. I know I was having thoughts about doing Tears of Joy.
Oh,
I thought about Jin-a-Ling too, but it was like, nah, I don't think that's I think you need to be the guy saying that story.
But I think you would have sung Tears of Joy better than me. I'm really happy with the Ludlow 618 album, but that was the album where I finally learned how to sing. And it was funny because it was a process, and most of the vocals on that album took quite a long time. And then when I did the first solo album, the one after that, I was just banging them out because I'd finally figured out, oh, this is how to sing, I sing well. But there's like 3 points on that album that I'm really wish I could have done better. And the first one is that line on Tears of Joy. I'm going to do an octave lower. There's a singing girl. And that girl is like, the way headed. It's just like, oh, that hurts, man. It hurts. You would have nailed it. You would have sang it way better.
There's a singing girl. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. No, that's how it should be. So volume 2, man. I'll send you the multi-tracks.
There you go. That'll save me time. But I told you, a year ago when we were doing this, that when I was doing vocals for Ludlow, which we'll play in a second, it was hard.
It's not an easy song to sing. It's really difficult.
And usually if I do a vocal, I do it once or twice, 20 minutes in, I'm probably okay with it, or I can at least, beat it into submission, comp a few pieces here and there. That one I did it, and I was like, that's pretty good. I listened to it. I go, nah, I'll try it again. And I felt like McCartney doing,
Oh, darling.
Exactly. Yeah. So I kept coming at it like every week. week I would hit it again. And it took me a long time. I think it took me about a month to get a take that I was happy with. I'm still kind of.
I was impressed you went for that high C. Once I got the girls in the band, I stopped singing that. It's just like, that's another one of those. They sound better. I'll take the low note.
But the whole song is great. The whole album is great. I remember when it was new and how many trips back and forth to work, or like going to meet these guys at the Irvine Spectrum to have dinner, and how many times I listened to that thing and thinking, wow, I can't believe some people I know, put this together.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. And I had that feeling on a handful of records that came out, but that was one of the first times I was really like, geez, this is actually good. It's not just like, this is pretty good. No, it's actually good.
Yeah.
And that particular part of the song and that last whatever section,
all that lies behind me now.
There's just something about that really gets your hairs on end. And I was hoping that we could get there.
Oh, thank you, man.
And I think that happened. I remember listening back to it and going, "Ooh, there it is."
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and I was at Teresa's birthday over at we had a little birthday party at the Bamboo Club, and I remember in the parking lot I was like, "Come here," and Teresa and Evie came over, and I played them a little section of that. And their eyebrows went up. It was like, it was really cool.
Well, for that album, I just want to give full credit to the other guys in the band. It was one of the most rewarding experiences of my life because we really set out to make a great album because the band had been dropped from our label. We were, for all intents and purposes, done. And we'd basically gone back to playing little bars and playing covers in a very sort of undignified, rock star like way. And I said to the guys, there is absolutely no point for us to do another record unless it's great, because no one is going to care. And I knew I hadn't done my best work yet. I mean, the last record we did with Cockeyed Ghost, The Scapegoat Factory, had gotten really good reviews, but that was right after we lost James and Rob, and I was doing a lot of stuff I wasn't quite ready to do. Some stuff, taking over some of Rob's vocal stuff, and he had a smoother voice than me, and just, I was doing a lot of the instrumental work, some of the drumming and things like that, and it was sort of a transitional record. So by the time we did Ludlow, we had Kurt back in the band. He was the original drummer. We had Robert, who was a huge asset, and he was somebody that had played with both Rob Cassell and I in a previous band. And then Severo came in from the Masticators and later of the Smithereens. And we all had a very unified purpose. We were going to make a great record. And I, as a songwriter, I sort of took that really seriously, but the band took that really seriously too. And we started making that in the first week of 2000, and we finished it like the year's 2001, I think. So it was that whole year of 2000, and we would be out in that garage just working up these tunes. And I remember, Severo would usually come a bit late, so me and Kurt and Robert would be out there in the freezing cold, and I would make a batch of hot chocolate for them. And we had some leftover scotch from one of these parties that we used to have all the time up on the fridge, and so I would pour some scotch in there, and I would bring it all out to them so we would stay warm while we were working up the songs. And so we'd start with the scotch chocolate, and then we would start working up the tunes, and everything on that album was a band performance. I mean, there might be one or two tracks where Severo's not on for one reason or another, but basically it's the four guys working as a team. And it was just so great for me as a songwriter and a band leader to have the guys who so utterly committed. We are going to make a great record. And it wasn't, we felt good about it. It didn't really make a big splash at the time, but over time, people kind of went, yeah, this is really good. And so I'm really happy that it took that place,
I mean, I remember one time, I think, what were we doing? I know I played with you on at some gig. It must have been.
Oh, in North Carolina, right?
Yeah, I think that happened. Yeah, maybe that's what we did. With Robbie, and we planned you were going to do most of your set by yourself, and then we worked up a handful that we could come up and join you on. And I think I was really shocked at how, like, I thought, oh, I'm going to get this right and, it'll be great. And you were just like, no, it's got to be this and it's got to be this. And like I'd never really had anybody really come at me with like, no, it must be thus.
Yeah,
because I'm usually that person, and it was like way beyond what I thought I could ever get away with anyone I've played with before. I'm always kind of like, yeah, this is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I got the nicest. The last time I played in L.A. with a guy, Severo came up and he said the nicest thing, and I wish I'd paid closer attention when he did, because it's the nicest thing he's ever said to me. But there have been people that I butted heads with in the bands from time to time because of that. And Severo, was one of them. I think he'd admit that. But he said that when he went on to play with the Smithereens and other professional level gigs, that really equipped him well for that kind of situation. Just like it has to be a little bit better. And but for me, I mean, it's never been about my ego. I swear to God, I want to do better. And that I've always wanted to grow. Like just this morning, someone commented on one of my old videos, and I went and looked at the video, and it looked terrible. I'm like, oh my God, I put that out there, and I actually had to look at all my other videos to confirm that it got better, and it did, right? and the thing is, I always want to be better, whether it's being as a better person or a better singer or a better on-camera person. And there's two people that I can credit for instilling that in me. One of them is Darian Sahanaja from the Wonderments, because when they were doing their thing back in 93, 94, they would do their thing in little bars, and they would recruit people outside like Probin Gregory and Lisa Michaels to help them achieve this sort of level of presentation that nobody else could do. And I got drafted to do this a few times as sort of a C-level call for them. And, and I can remember being in rehearsal with them and doing some glockenspiel thing. And Darian just goes, no, it's not that. It's this, And at first you're a little bit hurt, but then you're like, no, I want to please this guy. He's bringing something out of me that no one else has done, And after that, I was always happiest when I played with people like that. Stu was like that. Stu could be really tough to play for, but in a good way, because he just demanded a level of performance without much rehearsal, I might add. He just expected you to be on it. And so with that last lineup of Cockeyed Ghost, and when I say that about Severo and I butting heads, he still was an incredible team player on that record. I'm not putting him down one bit. I mean, when I've gone back and listening to that record, the thing I listened to the most are Severo's because I played lead, right? And I played rhythm. So Severo had to find things in between that to do. So he would add all these little hooks and things like that were really, really cool. So with those guys, they weren't fighting me on this thing, because we all wanted it to be great, and they knew that was what we were doing. So when I said we got to do this again, we got to do that again. Like when we did Karma Frog, we did all the backing vocals, and we did them too well. They sounded too nice, and so we basically threw them away and did them all again more badly, because we wanted to sound, and things like that. And I can remember also doing Gina Ling, where there's a point in that song where the entire tone changes, and you find out this happy-go-lucky song is really about someone who took their own life. And I can remember doing that line probably 20 times, because it was like getting an acting part right, where you can't be overly emotional about saying something like that, or you're milking tragedy for sort of a cheap reason. You just have to say it like Johnny Cash. So when you say Gina Ling died by her own hand, it can only be said like that. So it can't be like Gina Ling died, because you don't believe it, right? So when we were making that record, there was a lot of that attention to detail. And then when the Chaos Band got together, I'm sorry, I wandered around. The second person that really instilled that in me was Evie Sands, because we had a world-class singer, guitarist in the band. She was willingly putting herself in a subservient role to me, which if you think about it, was utterly ridiculous. But it worked out very, very quickly that she and I had a very good working relationship, because I can remember early on with the Chaos Band, Evie taking me aside and going and kind of sighing. And it's like, I'm like, what, Evie? And she's like, this band could be so great. And it was in the could be. In other words, we were not. But what was great about that moment was I knew exactly what she meant, and that she wanted a level from the band that was the same as the level that I want. And we were going to, and the thing is, you guys know Evie, she's the sweetest person in the world. And because she's the sweetest and nicest person in the world, you are terrified of pissing her off. So she's just got a sort of inner strength to her. Like, you know, that underneath that all, she's still a really, really sweet person, but she's tough. She has to be tough to have lived as long as she had in the music industry. And so the great thing was, from that point onward, Evie and I kind of had an unspoken agreement that we were going to try to be just the best band ever. And, you know, the other people in the band might have balked, and sometimes did, understandably, at sort of my perfectionism. But everybody in the room knew that that's how Evie wanted. If it had been just me, you know, people might have said, you know, screw this, we're done. We're not doing this anymore. But because you had that sort of silent enforcer of Evie, like, no, we're going to do it again. And in fact, Evie was more perfectionist than I was in some ways. So I think Darian and Evie both instilled in me that desire to, no, we're not just going to be okay. We're going to be as good as we can possibly be. And the great thing about the Chaos Band was, just like what Darian had lit inside me, everybody in the band started to take great pride in this. No, we're going to do this. We are going to do 50 Beach Boys songs. We are going to do a soul tune, you know, a soul show, things that were just sort of reaching beyond what we should have been capable of doing. And a lot of other people came along for the ride and were inspired by that also. And I'm really proud of that work. And that's a really long tangent, but the thing that I love about your guys' record and what you've done with your album, which is masterfully done, is you know, listening back to some of the tracks, like you said, our track, the Sugar Plastic track, there's such a variety of material that you guys have to get your arms around and execute properly. And it's masterfully done. I have to give it up to you guys for doing such a fine job with such an eclectic selection of material. It's really well done. And so kudos for this whole project.
Thank you. That's awesome. Well, we certainly, we knew it would be a fun idea to be able to pick the cherries off of everyone's tree, and as it were, which we did.
Red and blue and white, but
really grateful that you got us so many great gigs at Brennan's when we would play with you.
True.
Which was super fun. But you actually helped me. You don't know this, but you helped me realize one of my goals that I had for music. And, a lot of people think with goals like lofty, I'm going to have world peace or, stop nuclear proliferation. But mine was always that because being a teacher, I really wanted young people to dance to a real band instead of dancing to DJs. And I'll never forget the night you were at Huntington when we were doing it was the homecoming show after the big team had won and stuff. And you were playing Elton John, I believe. And you were playing for all these high school kids and they're all up there dancing, which was super fun.
Oh, I don't remember that. How cool is that? That makes me happy.
Yeah, you're even captured on video. It's a horrible video. It's grainy as you can barely see it. But yeah, you played outside with us, and we were just starting the music program at that point.
I didn't do that much down there, but I have this great memory of I don't remember what gig it was, but I remember I think Robbie might have been involved. I don't recall.
Yeah, that was the
but
same
we were
show.
we did "Don't Stop Believing" by Journey.
Yes,
and the talking about like sort of going the extra mile. That's a song that probably all of us individually would avoid playing, right? but it had a completely different meaning for the singer. It was a young woman, if I recall correctly.
Katie Bresden.
Yeah, and I remember we all got together and said, if we do this song properly, and it's a very difficult song to do properly, we will give this young woman the sort of the backdrop to have the greatest moment of her life if she can do her part of it, right? And so I can remember I worked out that piano part, digga, 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 and I got my falsetto in tune to get all that stuff, and and Robbie, God bless him, did his role there too, and we did it. We got up there and we played "Don't Stop Believing" almost flawlessly, as I recall, and I think that woman was just thrilled, right? That young lady.
It was a good show.
She's still a professional singer to this day.
That's great. I think that's my favorite thing. I don't need to be up front. I get great. I mean, like the last show that we did, my favorite thing, Brian Whelan came up to sing. What a talent that guy is. And he did, I don't remember what song he did, but I was just playing rhythm guitar. And I love playing rhythm guitar because I'm good. It's my best skill. And it keeps the whole band kind of there. It's not a flashy thing, but it just kind of keeps everything where it ought to be. And I can remember I just sort of sat down and leaned up against his knee and just played that part. Everyone else was doing all the work. The girls were singing. I was just listening, going, okay, I got my little thing here, and I'm keeping the metronome with Kurt, and everyone else is just killing it, and I'm just listening. And that's the stuff that I miss the most about playing with other people, is when the band is shaky and the things aren't gelling properly, it's a drag. But when everybody locks and you just know, you don't need to be the guy up front going, wah, wah, it's cool to be shaking a tambourine. You're just part of the crew,
There's another thing that happened to me that was we started working with Marty Beal, who was someone that I knew ages ago, and Marty owned a room called he's now playing in Sparkle Test when we play live and also contributing on our next records. Marty had a place called still has a place called the Racket Room, and you recorded down there. And so what did you record there?
Marty, engineer guy, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Okay, I remember that session. All right, so this is for the podcast, right? So I got to tell the story properly. Okay.
Yeah.
For everybody listening, I know I ramble. It's what I do. I try to keep it interesting, so I apologize in advance.
It's okay. I just set a timer for 60 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go take a nap.
What usually happens is the internet cuts off or something, and that's like the hook. You're done, Adam. Okay, so there was a guy I played with named Sean Jacobs. We played together backing up Annie Chelsea. And Sean and I were both big Beach Boys fans. And Sean was friends with some of the Wrecking Crew guys, the session people that played on the records in the 60s. And Sean said he wanted to get a session together to re-record some of these original Beach Boys and Mamas and Papas things as a soundtrack for this other project he had for this guy that, if I recall correctly, was like a sort of a legendary surfer. So there's a movie project and this music project. So around 2010, 11-ish, he actually had this session, and it was one of the great moments of my life because the session was Sean, Nelson Bragg, me, Don Randy on piano, Jerry Cole on guitar, and Hal Blaine on drums. And I was sitting with a little tray, with a little music sound right in front of me, right in front of Hal, like facing him. And 2 days in the studio of just intense work with these guys, and I learned so much, gained so much confidence, and understanding of how they did what they did. It was a great experience. So that's a whole story in itself. But to move on from that, so then later they had to do the vocals for all this stuff. And I actually was the one that arranged the vocals. They may have gone back and rearranged them later, but originally I did the arrangements, and I can't notate. So I actually hit these notebooks with just the letters. like here's like 6 bars, and here's an E and here's an A, and I would give them all the parts. So they did one session where it was, I think Teresa was there. Nelson Bragg was definitely there. Me, Sean, I think Annie Chelsea might have been there. I don't remember all the people that were there. And I was singing on that. And I think at one point Nelson and I disagreed on a note or something. So then I let Nelson take it over. And it came out pretty good. But with all the people there, I think we only got like 3 or 4 tunes finished, right? So he had all these other tunes to do. So he called me up and said, let's you and I go, do the rest of the vocals. And some of them were Jan and Dean tunes or something. So we went down to the studio, and which was the same place we did the session with Nelson, who of course played with Brian Wilson's band, very talented guy. And Sean had lost his voice. So I actually did every single part. And it was like, and things like Good Vibrations. So I'd be literally like calling it was Marty, right? Is his name, right?
Yeah, Marty.
Yeah, really good engineer. I really liked working with him. And so it was like, okay, play this part back. Okay, stop. Then I would like, okay, hit record. Okay, play it back. Find the other part. I did the whole thing for like 5 or 6 songs, just every damn thing. I was kind of proud of this work. And then I guess the project's getting ready to come out soon. And, I mentioned this on Facebook, and Sean chimed in and goes, "Oh, we erased all that stuff and did it over."
Yay.
Oh my God.
It's like, oh, well.
Oh,
It was a nice little stunt at the time, but actually I understand why, because I'm sure that given more time and, 4 really good singers, they're going to do a better job than I was able to do batting this stuff out, like, one after another. But, I thought I did okay work. I try to do what I'm asked to do in the moment, whatever it is, and I do the best I can. So
sometimes I need something to go by too. They
Yeah,
probably just
and
followed your lead.
and the thing is, when I sort of went away from being a starving singer-songwriter to more of a behind-the-scenes guy, I had a lot of less negative emotions about the life in music, because I think, unfortunately, the better I got at what I did, the more depressing it became to perform. Because it's one thing if you're up in a punk rock band and you're going, and people like it or they don't, right? But you had a good time and everyone got drunk and whatever. But when you start getting to the point where you can put over really good material, and then, I have a lot of memories of trying to play the song Go West, which I wrote for Susan. That was a joke. In bars, which I think Go West is one of the best songs I ever wrote, but it's a piano ballad, and people would inevitably talk over it and drink beer, I don't mean to say I'm Paul McCartney or anything, but I think that's a really good song, and to be up there playing something that you're thinking this is a pretty good song and people just don't give a crap, that's a crappy feeling, you know. But if I'm producing something or if I'm singing on somebody's record or whatever, my job is just to do the very best I can to elevate their work. And I'm being paid to do what it is I do. And Michael, you might do a better job at it than I do.
But I do it for free. See, that's the difference.
Yeah, well, that's what kind of where I was going with it. You know, we all do what we do, right? But at the end of the day, if they say it's crap, I'm going to let Michael redo it because he's better than you. If the check cleared, you know, and that was my reward. I love that scene in Mad Men where Peggy's complaining to Don Draper, like, I want more appreciation. He goes, that's what the money is for. And I love that line because, you know, I love getting paid to do music because it takes the sting out of the rejection. You know, you got hired to sing this part and they think you suck, but here's $50. Well, I got $50. Yay. You know, it doesn't hurt my feelings. You know, so, I don't know how I got on that tangent, but I kind of there's less on the line, you know, when you're in the backing capacity, isn't there? Don't you find that?
Yeah, I was telling somebody that yesterday. It's like when we were recently doing this little cover band, and I could go up there for 3 hours and say, let's do another set.
Yeah,
and I got to sing, you know, lead on a half a dozen things throughout the night, and it was fine. But it's great to not have to be carrying it or think that you have to.
Yeah.
But Susan and I, when we do a Sparkle Jet show, we're trading off lead vocals. That's nice because God knows I need the break. But then, you know, if I still have to be playing like a Sparkle Jets kind of song,
yeah.
Even if she's singing lead, it's like I'm friggin' exhausted 2 songs in, but I can play I can play backup. You know, if I'm not the lead guy, I can go all night.
The trade off you guys did on a Stu song, Come Down Now, that was lovely that you guys did on the record because that's you guys alternating the lines, right? Yeah,
right.
It's really, really, really nice. I'd forgotten how much I liked that song that Stu and Heidi did. I must have played it with them because I played with them for a year or so. But it was probably something where I played one note. It was just focusing on not coming in too loud, and hearing you guys sing it just brought back some great memories of, you know, Stu and Heidi's chemistry and being on stage and watching that go down and getting to be a small part of that whole deal for a while. So it was really,
that's awesome.
Everything in the album that I've heard is just, you know, you can't say, oh, well, they didn't pull that off. I mean, you guys did a great job on these tunes and reminded me of some songs that I'd forgotten that I loved, you know?
Yeah, it was really fun to do, actually. Most of the music came together pretty quick. I would have some like placeholder parts on, you know, because I'm impatient. And I was like, Susan, you got to come sing this. And she would basically come sing like one song at a time. And I remember her coming over to work on that one. And I said, okay, Susan, I want you to do the high parts, you know, when you are knee deep and I'll finish the line because, you know, they overlap. Those vocals overlapped on the original. He had to record it in 2 different takes. And I said, to avoid that problem, you sing the first half, I'll sing the bottom half, and then we'll leapfrog. And she goes, no, I want to sing the whole line. And you can still sing with me, but you'll do the second whole line, you know, from the high, super high to the lower note. But that ended up working out, thank God. But yeah, that's one of those nice things. We did a similar thing on the Monsanto as well.
Right. Yeah.
I like that. If you're going to have multiple singers in your band, I mean, let's face it, when John and Paul sang together, that was always the most fun thing. Even if it wasn't really like harmony, if you know, there's a couple ELO songs where the bass player sings one line.
Kelly Groka, yeah, sure.
And it's great.
Voice. Yeah.
And it's just, and because even if he sings that, and when the other guy comes back, it's great.
I always like to give the other guys in Cockeyed Ghost vocal bits. Like in the early days when Rob Cassell was in the band, he was a great singer. But in the beginning, at least, he wasn't really a rock singer, whereas I wasn't a very good singer, but I was a rock singer. So we would kind of, blend our voices to get a unique sound. And I would always try to find little places for Rob to like take the ball, like do his Roy Orbison thing. Like one of my favorite things Cockeyed Ghost ever did was about Jill, the first single that we ever did, because that was my attempt to write a punk rock Gilbert and Sullivan operetta. And I gave Rob this incredibly high, like almost an aria in the bridge. 7-inch musicians are changing ambitions, and oh God, he killed on that. And then later singing with Evie, having someone like that in your band, that just is, you can step back and she's going to step up to the mic, and your work is done. It's kind of like what you were saying. But some of my favorite things in the band, we didn't do it as often as we should have, were when Evie and I would sing together. Probably my favorite recording session we ever did was we did the Ballad of El Goodo by Big Star, and Evie and I sang around the same mic. We were like literally on opposite sides of U87, and we did 2 takes, just completely playing off each other. And what an honor to be in that position. And also through having performed with her for so long, upping my game as a vocalist that I could at least stay in the ring. I'm not saying I'm as good as Evie, but over the years I developed enough to at least not, you're not asking me to turn off the mic and walk away. And so to be able to kind of step up to the mic with her, incredibly kind of sing along with her, that's what a thrill that is. I've been very, very blessed with the people that I have encountered and who've mentored me. Rivers Cuomo, Stu, Darian, Earl Mankey, Steve Raffling, all of the people that I played with in the pop scene, Robbie for sure. Learned so much from all these people, and took a little bit to grow with everybody I've encountered, including you guys. I'm so inspired by the work that you guys do, which I admittedly have not followed as much as I should have, but with younger people, and not just helping them develop in traditional ways, but showing them how to up their game in terms of the material that they tackle and their aesthetic and their performance. I mean, think of all of the routes that you guys are planning with younger musicians and how they might carry the kind of music that we value forward in a time when the pop music landscape is pretty bleak.
Pretty bleak.
So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I even tell the kids that. I tell them every year. I told them the other day, I go, look, the reason we do this is to, give you, because when it's your turn to make music, you need to have a broader palette of colors to paint from. You can't just, if all you've ever heard is the 2 or 3 things that you like, or that the media has fed you, or that your parents have listened to. Because let's face it, as the years go by, the new generations have parents with crappier and crappier taste, and more limited. Not just like, oh, we like this, or that music they like, we don't think is good. It's just that it gets the scope of everyone's experience, instead of getting broader, seems to get narrower.
Yeah.
Because the music business keeps shrinking what it lets you hear.
Yep.
And the algorithms, and God bless them for good or evil, as many things they try to expose you to new things. Possibly it also reinforces a narrowness. And if you have a narrow bandwidth of musical knowledge and you decide you want to go write something, all the best you can do is a kind of a lower rate facsimile of that background. So if you want to be good, you got to have the good sauce.
Yeah, it's really maddening to listen to current popular music, at least that is easily accessible, because in the old days a song had an A section, a B section, and a C section, and now it doesn't even have a B section. You've got the same 4 chords going around. I mean, the interesting thing about it, I will give credit, is because the chords never change. People have had to become more inventive melodically to keep this interesting. So there are some kind of interesting melodies in this stuff, but between the mechanization of the process and the simplicity of the music, it just bores the crap out of me. And what's interesting is because of my life here, things, you don't have the same rigid social structures you have in the West. So a lot of the people that I know and hang out with here are much younger than I am. And so I have a lot of exposure to what they're listening to and what, now granted it's people in Asia, so it's not the same as Americans, but there are a lot of people who just love mindless shit. But there are also a lot of other young people, and I'm sure you guys are fully aware of this, that they know this stuff is crap. And then they go back to the time when people played music and wrote songs that had more than 4 chords, and because they're not able to get it easily now,
Yeah, with a 5 chord in it.
Yeah.
I thought the thing that the trend that's still going that's driving me absolutely nuts this week. And this started, I don't know, probably 10 years ago, and I thought it would have gone away by now. But it's that whole thing when people start making music with loops. Loops go from beat 1, and then they stop before the next beat 1. So depending on how much you want to parse it, they stop on the 4 and, or the 4 and, or whatever you want to call it. So all these songs now, they're going, dun, 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 and they never ever staying on the 1. And it's not like when we used to do stuff where we would end on the 4 and because we're cool and we pushed. Like I think every song ever that I did has pushes all through it because I'm an idiot. But it's not even that. It's just stop it. And it's the worst kind too, because it's not even intentional. It's almost like the song just kind of stops. I had some kids do a song last year where it was great tune, really well constructed. It's going. And the end finally comes and they kind of stopped on the 1 and the guitar kind of went bink bunk. It's like they didn't even give any thought to let's put an end here. And they're not thinking it'll fade. They're just like, well, it's over. Yeah, that's enough. It's over there. It's like, and I go, guys, you're going to play this in a big concert with like $1 million worth of lights, make something that the audience can go, oh shit, wow. And so I said, make the ending do this. And I showed them a couple things. They're like, oh yeah, that's really good. And sure enough, it worked really well and it kicked butt, but they just, Jamie can explain that. I was going to bring up a topic that you will appreciate, and Jamie can explain this better than I can because he's the one that heard the spiel. But explain to everybody what's happening in music right now with the algorithms and how, that stuff you told me. We were on a bus ride to some conference, Jamie, and you explained the whole thing to me.
Oh God, it was horrible. It was like something out of a bad sci-fi music movie. It's actual companies that make money. They analyze every aspect of the song, like if it has a cowbell that comes in on measure 83, whatever it is, and they hand all of this data. It's a data-driven songwriting, and so they'll hand this to the record executives, and these are the trending songs of the top 10 Billboard hits, and they all have this component, and it's horrible. But that's why we have all this crap. Data-driven songwriting.
So if the songs that actually have a 5 chord in them aren't as popular as the ones that just omit it, then somebody says, we really should just not bother with the 5 chord anymore. And it's not just that people don't know it and are lazy. I think there are literally some people that are trying to follow these models to have hits, to get more streams. Oh my gosh, the whole thing is, I don't want to think about it. It's too depressing.
It is very depressing.
It's really something.
There's a certain laziness to the whole process now, but because everything is so easy, nobody really wants to make an effort. I mean, but
I certainly don't.
But to be fair, there's no reward for the extra effort. So I'm looking at it from the other side, I understand why people do this. I mean, I had kind of a pet peeve when I was playing in Cambodia that every single person has the damn iPad up, and they're scrolling and, look, here's the words and stuff. And, I have a piece of paper and I've looked at videos of myself and I'm leafing through the piece of paper. That's not like that looks better. But the thing is, it's one thing to go, go, okay, this guy just requested a song and I don't know how it goes. I'm going to pull up a chord sheet. It's another to have your regular repertoire, but you still need to have that thing scrolling. You're still looking at the pad because you didn't bother to memorize the words. And the thing is, as a performer, to me, whatever level you're at, you're trying to connect the song to the audience. And if you're just up there playing, and sometimes you're even playing to a track. So if you're up there playing to a track and you're looking at the lyrics and everything, then what's the difference between karaoke, really? Sure. And the difficulty is if you're one of those people, well, over here, you're maybe making $40 and you're going to make $40 whether you're doing that or not, right? So why waste the time? But what makes me sad is, to me, the entire relationship between the performer and the audience has broken down to a situation where it's barely discernible from karaoke. And this makes me sad because I saw this playing with Stu. Stu was one of the most masterful performers I have ever had the privilege to see or perform with. I would stand there next to him on a little keyboard and just watch the choices he made with each crowd to what he was going to do, including intentionally throwing the gig because he didn't like them. And I was like, watch him going, dude, you are deliberately antagonizing the audience. But that's part of establishing I am the guy on the stage and you are not. Yeah. Right. And that used to be part of the deal. We're up here, you're not. And the democratization of the music, there's some nice things about it, but you lose that responsibility and authority to take people somewhere other than when is it my turn to sing and when can I hear the Ed Sheeran song again? I like to tell this story. I was on the road with Teresa and a drummer named John Brown, and I was Braun, I'm sorry. And we were playing in a tour in the Northeast, and I was test running this concept of a pub band. So in other words, I'm going to make a set that is both going to rock the crowd and be artistically fulfilling at the same time, like thread the needle like a pub band used to do. There'll be some originals, some covers. The covers will all be great. They'll motivate the crowd, but they're not going to be the obvious thing. And it worked. And we had all these great gigs. And I can remember we were in upstate New York, and we had a crowd of about 30 people in a small room, and we had them, right? They were completely with us the whole way. They're having a great time. And at the height of it all, I stopped and I said, okay, you guys are all having a great time, right? They're, yeah, we are. It's like, okay, I want you to take 4 minutes and just listen to this next song. Just listen to it. You probably won't know it, but I think it's one of the best songs ever recorded. And just give us the 4 minutes and give the song your attention, and we'll go right back to what you want us to do. And they did. And we played September Girls by Big Star. And they all listened and they appreciated the song, and they showed us respect, and they showed the song respect. And then they went back to the party. And I found out later that at that exact moment, Alex Chilton passed in New Orleans.
Whoa.
And I'm very proud of that. I didn't know that was what was going on, but because at the best of performance, you establish a connection with the audience, and that takes you both to a higher place, greater than the sum of your own ego as a performer and the audience's own ego and sense of entitlement of what they want to hear. You go above and beyond that. And the music that we grew up with, the reason it was so meaningful, there were a lot of media reasons too, but also this was part of the mission statement and everybody knew it. And it troubles me deeply that people don't even understand this anymore. And when I was in Cambodia, I made this my mission statement to try and achieve these moments. Now I'm playing in hotels, and not everybody's going to want to get with a program. I didn't always get there, but I had 6 or 7 shows out of maybe 80 where I did it. We did it. I shouldn't even say I did it. It's because it's a mutual thing between the audience that you've got and what you do. And I'm proud of that. And the thing is, we all have to fight our little battles, just like you guys are doing with this project and what you're doing with the kids that you work with, to instill the values that are important to us and that made us love music, and light that fire in people. Like the fire was lit in me, but with all the people that I work with that I mentioned earlier, and many others that I'm sure I've forgotten. That's everything that we do in this world to some extent is meaningless. And so we're kind of left with how we treat each other. And but we can impact the future in those small ways. Maybe we can't stop global warming single-handedly or stop single-use plastic, but we can plant a seed in somebody that plants a seed in somebody else, and you never know where it's going to take the future of the world.
Yep, I know that's definitely true, and we're starting to finally see some of that pay off with students, and I think to tie into what you're talking about, I know you're about to launch a little project in the next little while that we talked about earlier. So if you want to talk about that, you can.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. This will be the first time I have revealed it. Although if this is going up next week, it'll probably be out. But this month is the 40th anniversary of the first release I ever had, which was on a local radio station compilation of artists called Rock to Riches, and it came out in September 1983. And I was a teenager, and I'd gone to the studio and recorded all the instruments on a dumb little pop song I'd written, basically a ripoff of the Beach Boys' Let 'Em Run Wild. But it got on the record, and it got played on the radio. It was kind of a big deal, and that was probably the biggest success I had for 13, 14 years. But it was 40 years ago this month, and I've mostly retired from recording my own material. But I did manage cobbling together various resources here in the Philippines to record a new pop song, the first pop vocal song that I've done other than drunken goof-offs for about 6 years. And it's kind of special because I recorded in a classic Tagalog love song in sort of the Adam Marsland pop style. And this actually makes sense because 40 years ago when I was 17, most of what I was writing were slushy Barry Manilow type ballads. So in a way, it is cycling back to that. But it's a very sort of lush Tom Jones / Beach Boys take on a Filipino song, and it's sung in Filipino. And I'm planning to do a video, which by the time this comes out will probably just have dropped. It's going to be sort of a recast as a love letter to the Philippines, and I'm going to promote it here in country because I've done this song live here a number of times. And the effect on audiences of seeing a white guy singing a Tagalog song is electrifying because most of the foreigners that come here don't bother to learn the language, let alone learn anything about the culture. So to have me up there representing what they do in a style that they relate to,
it's cool.
It really is cool. And I get a huge kick out of it. And it goes back to that kind of thing we were talking about where you want to get up on stage and do more than just, you want to move people. And so I'm really excited about releasing this song because I'm kind of curious to see how it does. If I have anything to go by with performing it, it will be warmly received. And if it's not, they'll deport me and life goes on.
Well, will you let us take out the show with that tune?
Absolutely, and you can even use the mix that you so helpfully helped me dial in last night. Michael was my mix consultant.
I said that sounds really good.
No, you did more than that. I have these tiny little iLoud speakers because my whole studio setup has to fit into a suitcase, and so it's hard to judge the low end. So Michael helped me with the production on this. Very good. So thank you, Michael.
Right on. Well, it's good. I think it's sounded nice, as we'll see. As I'll wrap us up here shortly because it's the customary time to do so. But it was an honor to have you here. I did think I'll come up with a few questions. I think I asked some of them, and I knew that no matter what, we would have a lengthy conversation. So there could be many, many more hours, I'm sure. But it's been fun watching you adapt to your new life and make all this new stuff that you're doing. I've really enjoyed watching all the little TV shows, and that stuff's just crazy. And it all just kind of keeps coming. So that's great. I'm glad you're having a good time. I know it's not easy. I know there's good and bad moments, but know that we're watching and we're trying to follow.
I appreciate it. And I guess the nicest thing about my own journey is, I've done some good work. I can look back on the music I've made and I'm pretty cool with most of it. But I think my main value to the world has been a guy that kind of sticks his neck out sometimes when others might not. And sometimes it blows up in my face. But a lot of times it motivates other people to do things and connects other people. And sometimes you need somebody to say, hey, person A, here's person B, you might need to know them. And I've been lucky enough to be able to do that sometimes. And I think that's probably more than the creativity. That's probably been my value to the world. And I hope to keep connecting and inspiring people in my own limited way, by being the weird person I am.
Yep.
And you guys keep doing the same, with what you guys are doing with this record. It's an idea that I had myself and I never got around to doing it, but there's so much great music made at that time. It was a scene that wasn't just about slapping each other's backs. It was about people being inspired by having to open for or close for a great band. And so you raised your game, and it was a really special time. And that we can all be proud of having had a role in and being a part of.
I want to get these kids to find out about it.
Yeah, well, now they do.
So I've got vinyl. I've got vinyl in my house, and I need it to be out of my house. So come on, kids.
So wait, it's a double record, right?
Yeah. Huh.
So a single record is vinyls, but a double is vinyl.
I never use the word with the S. That's just Hayne. Oh, you're just baiting me. I almost fell for that. I was being really calm and everything.
Because I think that would be a justifiable use of vinyls. If there's two records in the sleeve, you actually have two vinyls.
All right.
It's okay then.
Note to self, edit this part out. No, I won't. It's fine. So this has been delightful. And we'll play that song right now. And
so thank you all. It's been a real pleasure.
Right on.
Good times.
We'll be glad to see you next time you come back into town.
Yeah, well, I came back earlier this year because someone gave me a lot of money to do it. I'm pretty amenable to cash temptation. So, what were you saying, Mike?
What's the name of this song we're listening to?
Ikaw ay aking mahal. You are my love.
All right. Well, I'll try not to take it personally.
You can if you want.
All right, everybody. So that was Adam Marsland, you guys, as if you didn't know. And if you didn't know, I mean, get hit, baby. Thanks for listening to this podcast of ours. Who knows? Maybe there'll be more. And stupider things have happened. And Lord knows I don't want to have to pay the podcast company money by changing the name and doing a new one. So if I ever get an itch to make more podcasts, they'll probably just get tacked onto this. But I'd have to ask my band permission. But I kind of enjoy doing it. It's fun. All right. I know at least 3 people have really enjoyed listening to them. So thank you. All 3 of you. Dolphin Jeff, I'm talking to you. All right. Well, take it easy. We'll see you next time we do this. And thank you, Adam.
Bye, Adam.
Yeah, great seeing you all.
Good seeing you too. Bye.
And I'll see you 2 at practice.
Yeah, that's right.
Itanong mo sa akin kung sinong aking mahal. Itanong mo sa akin, sagot ko'y di makatagal. Ikaw lang ang aking mahal, ang pag-ibig mo'y aking kailangan. Pag-ibig na walang hayangan, ang aking tunay na nararamdaman. Isa lang ang damdamin, ikaw ang aking mahal. Maniwala ka sana, sa akin na walang iba. Ikaw ang aking mahal, ang pag-ibig mo'y aking kailangan. Pag-ibig na walang hanggan, ang aking tunay na nararamdaman. silang